The Battle of Uhud. The Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, entered with his army of 700 fighters after the withdrawal of 300 hypocrites to the land of Uhud, stationed in suitable locations, placed a number of archers on the only gap in the battlefield, assured them of the necessity of their positions and not to abandon them no matter what happens, and appointed a commander named Abdullah bin. Then the fighting began on the 7th Saturday of the month of Shawwal of the 3rd year of Hijra, and the fighting was intense between the two parties. And the first meeting was between Talha ibn Abi Talha al-Abdari and Zubair ibn Al-Awam. So Zubair stepped on him and jumped on a camel and pulled him towards the ground and killed him. And when he saw the Prophet Pbuh, then Uthman ibn Talha advanced, and Hamza came out to him and killed him. And then their brother Abu Sa'd came out and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas killed him, and the Muslims won in all duels. The beginning of the battle was going in favor of the Muslims without human losses, so the polytheists began to think about fleeing and retreated back, leaving the women behind, and at those crucial moments some Muslims abandoned their positions, and 40 archers descended from the mountain, to take the spoils, and Abdullah ibn Jubair called on them not to forget what the Prophet told them but they did not listen to him, and Khalid ibn al-Walid saw that gap in the ranks of the Muslims, and he went with his army behind the mountain. And those of the remaining archers tried to stop him and killed them, and Khalid called out to the polytheists, so they returned to fight, and the Muslims were surrounded from front and back. And the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, began to call out to those Muslims who fled, as he had only 10 companions with him. Khalid heard the call of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and went to fight him. So the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, urged his companions to answer them for their fight so that they would have paradise. So 7 of the supporters came forward and defended the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, until they were killed. Then Umara ibn Yazid ibn al-Sukkan came forward and fought until he was wounded, and approached the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. The face of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, was beaten with stones, until blood ran from his honorable face. Then Abdullah ibn Shihab hit him on the head, and Abdullah ibn Kuma came and hit him on his shoulder. And the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, Talha remained defending the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and receiving arrows in his chest until Musab ibn Umair came bearing the banner of the emigrants, and fought a fierce battle until he was killed. And the polytheists thought that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, had been killed because of the many similarities between him and Musab. The Prophet's mother-in-law Amara al-Ansariya came and fought, and left watering the wounded. So the Muslims surrounded the Prophet. Abu Sufyan came to gloat and asked about the Prophet and said, I declare that he is dead. And the companions said, Allah is higher and yes. And he said, we have the consolation and there is no consolation for you. And they answered him, Allah is our Maulana and there is no Mawla for you. And they replied, Allah is our Maulana and there is no Mawla for you. And Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, they killed us in paradise and they killed you in the fire. Abu Sufyan and those with him withdrew. And the battle ended with the Battle of Uhud ended with the martyrdom of 70 of the companions, and the death of 30 of the polytheists, and one of the consequences of this was the decline of the prestige of Muslims in the hearts of polytheists. The rest of the companions also knew their mistakes and their violation of the command of their Prophet, so they regretted it, adhered to his commands and obeyed him, and continued on that